Well, hello, hello, shalom, shalom. Welcome once again to our midweek midrash. We've hit number 130. That's pretty amazing. Seems like we just got started. But we thank you once again for checking us out. Whether you are checking us out live, because we got our chat ready and raring to go. So we'd love to invite you to comment. And or whether you're watching us live where you can chat, or watching us, whatever is convenient for you. We thank you. We thank you that you've been watching. And I hope that this has been a blessing to you because all the way down from the beginning, we've been trying to tackle subjects that I personally feel need to be explored for the body of Messiah to get a firmer grasp on. And I've always wanted to have the opportunity to do a teaching on the first chapter of Romans because it's like Paul is just letting, kind of throwing caution to the wind and just getting everyone's attention right off the bat before he goes into specific subjects, into from point to point to point, and ultimately when he makes his plea for financial assistance for the Yehudim in the community of faith. So we see a lot of amazing things in this thing, and it's been a blessing to do the study and to encourage you to join us in the study. And as you make chat, you can add to it. And again, you could, when you watch this, you can always take notes if you want to use anything that we're saying here. You know, there's no copyright in the word. At least we don't believe that anyway. But we pray that you would utilize whatever we can do, and that we are in a position of serving. We are in the position of service to you, wherever you are. We thank you that you're giving this strange-looking creature your attention. You know, it's a. I'm not so sure if I tuned in and I saw this thing and I say, you know what, I think I'll pass. I think I'll go to something a little more polished, a little more attractive. How's that? But we're grateful that you've overlooked these things because you are like Yah. You judge not by what your eyes can see. And we're going to talk about faith because faith is based not upon, what we can grasp and hold on to, but greater things that are on the horizon and that are right before our eyes that we just refuse to see. So we are about to get into this, and I'll do a quick review. And before we do, we just want to welcome Pat and Gilbert. And once again, Gilbert, if you would do us the favor of an opening prayer. How's that? Let's say that right.
Oh, Elohim, the course of this busy day and life, give us times of refreshment and peace, and grant us the use of our leisure to build our bodies and renew our minds, that our spirit be open to the goodness of your creation, through Yeshua, our Savior and King. Amen.
Amen. Oh, great. Can you get that, Mama? So, here we go. So last week we completed verse 14 of Romans 1, and it's no, Regina.
Oh,
it's back there.
Okay.
So verse 14, I'll just repeat that because he's got to the point where he's talking that he wants to see those in Rome, and that he might be encouraged with them by their presence together, and that's what it is. I mean, I'm just as blessed as whatever blessing you might be able to derive from this teaching, for sure. I'm just very blessed by whatever opportunities that we have to share. Okay, it is very tov. And verse 14, Shaul says, I am a debtor, okay, both to Greeks and to barbarians, both to wise and to unwise. Okay, so before he includes Rome in that, he shows the extremes, the Grecian culture, which is knowledgeable and a rich history, barbarians, those who are contrasted by the fluid communication of the intellectual mind and Aristotle and Plato, and they are considered barbarians, which means they have a rough speech. They're not speaking with the fluidity of Shaul. In fact, Shaul was often criticized, right? And the Talmudim, were looked upon as country bumpkins, simply Am Haaretz, the people of the land, not schooled and learned rabbinical students. And then the wise, the sophos, those who are sophisticated and very skilled in their letters. And then to the unwise, those who are not easily understood. The contrast to the scholastic would be the those that refuse to learn sometimes. Those who, but he's addressing them all those four categories, and not being a respecter of persons as Yah is. Shaul seeks to follow in the footsteps of Messiah. The son following the way of the father. So Shaul says, follow me as I follow Messiah. So lead by our example. Yeah, Messiah is our example, a perfect example, but he's not around. So we're going to look around and look for him in the flesh, right? But we're not going to find it. So we need to trust in those who have proven themselves to be worthy of our affiliation. So we need to prove all things, test all things. We walk by faith and not by sight. And that which is not of faith is sin. So we have to develop that concept of faith. And we see that coming up right away here. So I'm going to start with verse 15 now, okay? So as much as is in me, I am ready to preach the gospel to you who are in Rome also. Okay, so after listing the four different classifications, he says, and I'm here for your benefit as well. And again, as much as in me, what is in him? As much as what is in me, and what is in Shaul but the Ruach? It's no longer I that lives, but Messiah who lives in me by the Ruach. So we see that Paul makes that statement elsewhere in his writings. So as much as is in me, that invigorates me, that motivates me, that moves me along this journey, I'm ready to preach. And the word for preaching here is euangelismo. Euangelismo, right? Which is to bring, to declare, to announce glad tidings. So again, to preach, to open up our abilities to reach others. And to Shaul had that ability. He had that uncanny ability. He was a yid among yidim. He was wise among the Yehudim, right? But also, he says, I want to use all things so that by all means I might save some of them in the galut, in the diaspora. I don't want to be perceived as being a snob. I want to be perceived as somebody who's willing to do whatever it takes. He has an audience. He respects the audience, and he reaches out to the audience, even as we see in the book of Acts, where he's given the opportunity to speak to the Greeks on Mars Hill, right? He's given that opportunity. He's respectful of his audience, and he makes his presentation. And because it was thorough and respectful, many received it. Many said, "Yeah, we might want to hear a little bit more about this from you." And of course, Shaul was used to preaching the word on every Sabbath among the Yehudim, in the synagogues. But he was given a rare opportunity to reach the masses, so to speak. And this Grecian audience was very generous. They hear that he's got something to say, here, why don't you stand up and say that? Nowadays in our society, if we don't know what you're going to say, or if we don't like what you're going to say, we shut you down, we cancel you. We want to make sure that you have no opportunity to reach anybody. So we've been given the opportunity to preach the word. And as Shaul says, we preach the word in season and out of season, which means when we got everything prepared, we got all our notes. I got all my scriptures written down on my loose leaves here. Whether we have that or not, I've got to be ready to go. And again, in season and out of season might also be referring to the Moedim, the appointed times, which are referred to as the seasons in Genesis 1, when the lights on the fourth day were given their direction to shine truth, and therefore the days and for signs and for Moedim. And then he says something that's very important, to undergird his whole reason for being, reason for raising the issue, reaching out for spiritual acknowledgement in the lives of busy Romans. Some people don't want to take a tract from us, don't want to hear somebody speaking on a street corner because they're busy, they got tunnel vision, they're going on their way to doing this and doing that. And so it requires patience to reach out to those that really are not interested. But are we bold enough to go out there and do this? There's a lot of people who are easily intimidated. Not everyone's meant to preach on a street corner. Not everyone is meant to hand out tracts at the subway stations or whatever. But whatever we can do, we'll find our way. We'll find the things that we can excel, and that will give us the opportunity to open up and share. And what does he say? He says, "For I am not ashamed of the gospel of Messiah, for it is the power of Elohim to salvation." I'm not ashamed of the gospel. Why? Because it's the power. It is the dynamos. It is this dynamite. It is taken out of context of where it's usually used. It's the big bang, so to speak. It is the gospel going forth exponentially, growing and going out there and achieving what it goes out to do, because that's what the word is, right? It achieves everything it goes out to do. It's got a 100% success rate. I'm not going to say, well, you got to give 110%. No, that doesn't make sense. 100% of anything is the maximum. So we have to be willing to give 100%. A power of Elohim to salvation. And the salvation is soteria, which means deliverance, preservation, safety, and to be saved, going to the root of salvation. Again, in the Hebrew, the word would have been Yeshua, the very same name of the Messiah. The gospel of Messiah is the power of Elohim to Messiah. That's why he was named Messiah. That's why he was named Yeshua, because, as we read in the gospel, because he was sent to save his people, sent to seek and to save the lost sheep of the house of Israel, which does not narrow down. Some people, when they say that, oh, you're talking about Israel, what about the rest of us? Well, wait, let's go back a second. What is Israel? We know Yehuda, we know the Jewish people are of that one tribe, and that tribe, as in the southern kingdom, also absorbed Benjamin and some of the Kohanim, the priests, and those are the tribe of Benjamin. Okay, in fact, Shaul is of Benjamin. But then you have 10 tribes that were sifted through the nations when Assyria conquered Israel because of their disobedience, and sifted through the nations, losing their identity. They were jealous about being more like the world. We want a melech, we want a king like the nations. Oh, well, you get to spend more time in the nations, and you're becoming of the nations. And in contrast to that, Shaul says, not all those of who are Israel are of Israel, who are of the spiritual reason, of the faith connection, not just of the actions of obedience to Torah regulations, but that you utilize that by faith. By faith. We do everything by faith within the quote-unquote religious construct. Everything's got to be done by faith. Anyone who thinks it's okay to phone it in and just to go through the motions, to once a week commit to going to a place and sitting for like 2 or 3 hours and then coming out and patting yourself on the back for enduring such an inconvenience, it's we have to put it together. We have to understand it within the full context. Okay? But he gets more explicit here. For I'm not ashamed of the gospel of Messiah, where is the power of Elohim to salvation for everyone who believes, pisteo. Okay, you got to believe. We talked about at the very beginning. Paul had that statement, faithful obedience or faith-based obedience. Yeah, the obedience of doing what we're told to do is one thing, but faithful obedience means we're doing it because we know why we're doing it, and we seek to please Yah. And we're told by Yochanan that this is the way that we love Yah, by keeping his commandments, and his commandments are not a burden for us because we've overcome the world, even by this faith. So it always comes down to faith. It always comes down to faith. Okay? For everyone who believes, pisteo. Okay? For the Yehudim, the Jew first, okay? Proton, and also for the Greeks, Helene, okay? We get the Helene, we get the Hellenistic Yehudim, the Greek Jews, as well as the Israelite Jews. So there's a priority. But Shaul turns it on its ear later on when he talks about judgment. Says to the Yehudi first, and also to the nations, right? To the Greeks. Because before we can puff ourselves up, to the Yehudi first. We get the best seats in the house, We get preferential treatment, Well, be careful. For everyone who believes, for the Jew first, the Yehudi proton for first. And this is when I did the teaching about the first day of the week, that proton is not used. It is mia, which means one. And the word day is not in there. It's not first day. It is on a day, on one Sabbath. Okay. Anyway, I won't go into that. That's going to be a big sidetrack there. And then verse 17, he goes on to say, for in what? In the gospel, okay? In the gospel, which has the power of Elohim to save. For in it, the righteousness, okay? Dika Sasuni, okay? The righteousness, okay? And Tzidkenu, Yahuwah is our righteousness. Yahuwah Tzidkenu. Yahuwah is our righteousness. He is our standard bearer. Any other form is self-righteousness, self-declared righteousness, which is based on self, not upon the standards that Yah has established for us. Okay? For in it the righteousness, and the word in the Greek is the state of him who is as he ought to be. How do you like that? I thought that was a pretty cool definition of righteous, to be as you ought to be. And how ought you to behave yourself? It says in Simon Peter, Shimon Kefa's letter, knowing that all these things are going down, how should you behave yourself? How should you conduct your lives? How should you conduct your affairs and your finances and your family and everything? Everything is rooted in faith. We have faith in all the things we do. We have faith that we eat our food without believing that we're not being poisoned or that whatever. Okay? So the righteousness, to the state of him who is as he ought to be, the condition that is acceptable to Elohim, the correctness of thinking, feeling, and acting. So again, that's all tied to the grace factor, that grace is not just a carte blanche, here you go, it's undeserved approval. Now it is a discipline. It helps, teaches us to say no to that which is contrary to Yah. And that's an important, very important thing to do. That we're not saved by works, by a robotic observance, which is disconnected from our faith, from our heart's desire. We walk in his faith because it's the right thing to do, to walk as we ought to walk. because we ought to walk as him to whom we must give account. And we walk even as Messiah walked. And the way he conducted himself and the way that we conduct ourselves, there should be no difference. That's why he left the Shemayim to dwell upon the earth, which means, okay, that's where we cut off. How did he behave? Not in the Shemayim, not as the right hand of Yah, but now that he's on the earth. He wears certain clothing, he wears certain sandals, a certain length to his hair, a certain length to his beard. The way that he walked, the stride that he took, he was no different from us. That's why Judas, Yehudah, had to kiss him to identify to those who were there to arrest him. Otherwise it would be saying, well, he's the guy over there who is levitated off the ground a little bit, and he's got this beautiful halo around him, and he's actually illuminated too. So that's the guy you go after. No. You're coming with us, and you're going to identify him, because there are a bunch of Yehudim, Am Haaretz. They're all country bumpkins hanging out together. You identify him to us. Okay? So, for in it, the gospel, the righteousness of Elohim is revealed. Apokalupto. That's like the book of Revelation is also called the Apocalypse, based on the Greek word that's used there, which is the apocalypse, the anglicizing apocalypse, which is the unveiling, the revealing. And when we think of the book of Revelation, it's just a case of pulling a Band-Aid off of a healed wound or something like that. I'm revealing this to you. No, we think of Revelation as something that is given to us by unusual means. Revelation, the things that come out to us out of the blue, things that come after much study, in result of our awareness and our alertness. We have to be paying attention. We have to be alert. Okay? So, of Elohim is revealed, and the word is to uncover, to unveil, to make known, to make manifest, to disclose, to lay bare. Okay? Revelation. For in it, the righteousness of Elohim is revealed from faith to faith. Faith to faith. Now, that's an interesting phrase. Remember the man who said to Yeshua, he said, Adon, I believe, help my unbelief. So there's belief, and then there's belief. There's faith, and then there's faith. The faith of the mustard seed, the faith to believe that this mountain shall be removed. There's different levels of faith. And we think it's just a case of is or isn't. Flick a light switch and you have, boom, you're faithful. No, we have, the faith grows. The faith, as we're exposed to the truth of Yah, as we grow in him, in the grace and knowledge, even as Messiah grew and matured, he went from faith to faith and developed an uncanny level of faith, as he was the Devar Yahweh, the Word made flesh. So, from faith to faith, from step to step, even as we are preparing for Shavuot in a few weeks, Pentecost, we celebrated the first fruits of the barley, and then we have 7 Sabbaths, which we are like steps. And then the day after the 7th Sabbath is Shavuot, Pentecost. And while we have a great time there, in which we receive Torah and the wheat offering, it's not over. Then we count another 7 Sabbaths, step by step by step. Again, we're climbing the stair of Yah. Messiah said that the Malachim, the angels, ascend and descend upon him as a sign, as a bridge between the Shemayim and Haaretz, the heavens and the earth. He is that bridge. He is the one, and when he provides for us his Moedim and his appointed times and his celebrations and his harvest times, we grow closer to him. And rather than the barley, we put a check next to it and sweep it away. No, we build upon it. We build upon it. All the Moedim are meant to be stacked and accumulated. It's like we have a bag, a shoulder bag, and we just keep, like we're going to the apple orchard, put a D there, right? And just put the apples and keep accumulating them as we go. Oh, this one looks good, So it is an accumulation. And from Shavuot, we count up 7 Sabbaths. The day after the 7th Sabbath there is the new wine celebration. So we're also maturing along the way. We go from barley to the more nutritious wheat. We go from just waving the omer to baking 2 loaves, which represent the 2 houses, which represent the 2 tablets of the commandments. And then from there, we have the celebration of the new wine. Now we actually have the meal of the bread and the wine. And we can have the berit, we can have a covenant celebration. Okay, as we mature, we sit at the table of Yah. Okay? And then we count up 7 more Sabbaths. The day after that 7th Sabbath is the new oil, the fresh oil, which is the oil of anointing. Which is the oil of anointing. Just like when Messiah says, take my way is easy, my burden is light. The word for easy is Christos. Okay? Come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. And he referred to the Pharisees saying, they won't even lift a finger to help you. They just add more burdens to you. But I'm here to share your burdens, to be yoked with you, to guide you. Okay? But he says, for my burden, it's easy. And I don't like the translation, frankly, and that's, I guess I just have to live with it. But the word is Christos, which if you look in your young Strong's Concordance, it's like 2 words away from Christos. This is Christos, which sound very similar. So his way is a way of anointing. The oil is the oil of anointing. And then we present the wood for the wood offerings that are presented on the altar. And within that week's time comes the autumn, the conclusion of the 6th day, okay? Just like the conclusion of the 6,000th year, okay? Opens up the new realm of the 7,000th year, the millennial reign that initiates with Yom Teruah, the feast of the trumpets, if you will. But it really is the day of the awakening call. We are resurrected. We are, but only after we follow the path of the barley. Instead of saying, "Hey, I'm not having barley. I want to have the wheat." No, everything is in its order. Seder. That's why when we celebrate the Passover, we have a seder, an order. We have everything in its right order. Even the resurrections. Messiah is the first fruit, and then we are the Bekorim. We are the first fruits, plural, after Messiah. So again, we accumulate, we build, and we don't just put a little check next to it, but we build upon it. Okay? From faith to faith, to faith to faith to faith. We're not satisfied with faith, a certain measure of faith. Oh, I believe, I have faith. Yeah, but has it been tested? Has your faith been proven genuine? Or is it all dusty and musty and moth-ridden? Or is it something that has been exercised, something that is in peak condition, in the best shape it can be? What is the measure of our faith? Okay? Okay? For in it the righteousness of Elohim is revealed from faith to faith, as it is written, the just shall live by faith. And he's quoting Habakkuk 2:4, of course. Many of you know that, and I'm very proud of you for knowing that. But faith. And of course, I want to go and look at the book of Hebrews, which talks about faith, okay? Faith, okay? Hebrews 11, 1-3. Now faith is the substance, or hypostasis, and that word is confidence, a substructure or a foundation, real being, genuine existence, substantial quality, assurance. So when we look at this, the faith is the substance. We're thinking of texture. We're thinking of ingredients. But it also has the idea of foundation. Faith is the foundation. Faith is the substructure. It is the undergirding of things hoped for. Okay. Faith is the confidence, is the true existence of things hoped for. And what are we hoping for? It's things are materializing. Faith allows things to materialize. The things that we hope are reality waiting to happen. Okay? For the evidence, elengchos, which is proof. Evidence is proof, things that have been tested. Okay? The evidence, that which is proven of things not seen. And it's not things that are invisible, things are not seen. And is that two different things? Well, things that are not seen are as we're growing, just like how long was that burning bush burning before Moshe came upon it? Was his eyes not prepared to see it earlier? You know, that Abraham had to develop faith for 20, 25 years before his son would come into the picture. There was a period of time between initiation and fruition. So things that are not seen, are not noticed. Just like when you become a believer, you realize the things that you used to think were entertaining. You say, why? This is stupid. Why am I watching this? Why are we talking about this? Why are we eating this? You start questioning things. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. Just like Shalom Aleichem. And of course that means peace to you. I know that. But the author, the Jewish author Shalom Aleichem, who wrote his stories, the Fiddler on the Roof is based upon his stories. And one of the things is Tevye, who's the patriarch of the family, is always, it's great that we're, in their struggles in Russia, the struggles. And, he looks up at heaven and says, Abba, if we're the chosen people, maybe you could choose somebody else for a while, and he would have a dialogue with Yah. And a lot of people say that's disrespectful. But I think we need to ask the right questions. You saw these things with the Speaker of the House or whatever, not the Speaker, but these, what do you call them, Regina, where the journalists are asking questions, and we have to ask questions, and sometimes they get upset. Oh, I don't want to answer that question. That's tough. You're a public servant. You're not the boss of me. I'm the boss of you. You're here to serve the public. That's why it's called public service. And we got it all backwards in the world today, where the politicians are the military generals who are forcing us to do X, Y, and Z. No. They were elected because we chose them. We hired them. Anyway, I don't get too wild with my political perspective. The evidence, the proof of things not seen. Again, not necessarily visible. We just haven't developed the stage. And the resurrected body, we're going to see a lot of amazing things, because these things are no longer not seen of us, but actually can be seen. And we'll see that as we continue with this verse. Okay? For by it, again, faith, the elders obtained a good testimony. The elders obtained a good testimony by faith, not by works or how well they spoke. By faith, they obtained a good testimony. By faith, we understand that the worlds were framed by the word of Elohim. It says that the Logos, the son of Yah, was the master at the master's side, at his father's side, creating the word, creating all things. That the worlds were framed by the word of Elohim, so that the things which are seen were not made of things which are visible, because it is of the Ruach. Okay? Those who walk according to the flesh, they have death, right? If we walk according to the ways of the Ruach, we have life. That we are in a unique position of walking in the Ruach of the day, of the Yom, in the cool of the day, in the Ruach and the spirit of the day. So this is almost before the Big Bang Theory. We think that all things were created by existing things that just happen to come into being, things that can be seen. And what they're saying is so that the things which are seen were not made of things which are visible. Okay? So Yah and his ways which cannot be seen currently in our lives created everything. Out of Yah, everything. Not out of nothing, everything, which is what the evolutionists believe. Everything came out of nothing. If given enough time, life can happen. Complex life forms can happen. If given enough time and circumstances, it's if you look at the complexity of life, and even the ability that I have a neck that I can turn my head, and I have all this complexity to my existence, billions of cells that die and replicate. Anyway, and then we go to verse 6. Without faith, it is impossible to please him, for he who comes to Elohim must believe that he is large and in charge. We must acknowledge that the one whom we have come to is the one, the creator of all. And to have faith develop to where it's not something, well, I'll hedge my bet, I think it's the right thing. No, the thing is to know. And we're going to see in the next verses where Paul talks about many may know, because what may be known of Elohim is manifest in them, for Elohim has shown it to them. So again, there's a lot of people who think they know, and this is what test of faith. Without faith, it is impossible to please him, for he who comes to Elohim must believe that he is, and not that he's just a warden or a cop on the beat, but he's a rewarder of those who just happen to stumble upon him, right? No, those who diligently seek him. Diligently seek him. Do we diligently seek Yah day in and day out? Or is it just a one and done deal? I kneeled at the altar and committed my life, 20 some odd years ago, okay? And that was it. I'm saved. There's nothing I can do to be unsaved. There's nothing I can do to make Yah love me any more or any less. It's a done deal. I sign on the dotted line. In fact, I did the sinner's prayer. Okay? When the preacher says, follow after me, I so-and-so. I'm really sorry, big guy up there. And I promise not to do it again, even though you know that ultimately I will. And I thank you that you forgive me, regardless of whether I actually mean it or not. Okay. And then sign it on the dotted line with a big amen. There's nowhere in the scriptures is there a sinner's prayer in which we follow after me. We do jumping jacks together. We do Simon says, raise your hand. Simon says, shake your hand. Stop shaking your hand. I didn't say Simon says. You're out. Back in the line. We tend to think of eternal consequences in situations and decisions that we make, and yet we don't take it seriously. We think that we can play, and Mom says we got to be in by 8. Okay, well, it's 9 o'clock. I think he's going to be mad at. We've been given instructions, and our parents who worry about us are going to be upset if we don't follow the rules. And Yah is upset when we don't follow the rules because we're playing out in the dark, running in and out of the street where cars are driving by, whizzing by, and a lot of bad people out there also. So our parents get a little annoyed when we go out of our safe place to just see how far we can go, and that's the nature, the fallen nature, I might add, of mankind. And that's the whole point about being born from above. is that we no longer have that old nature. We no longer function within the rules and regulations of the Olam Hazeh, the world that is dying. Okay? And now he gets real here also. Okay? From faith to faith, as is written, the just shall live by faith. For the wrath, okay, orgi, which is anger, vengeance, indignation. But the wrath of Elohim is revealed. Again, another revelation. Okay, again, the word of revelation is revealed. It's unveiled from heaven, from Shemayim, the origin of Yah's rulership against all ungodliness. Okay, Asabia, which is the word means ungodliness is the want of reverence towards Elohim. It's impiety and wickedness. Okay, in want of reverence towards Elohim, to be ungodly is, as opposed to what we just read, the state of him as he ought to be, righteousness. Ungodliness is the reverse of that, and that's whom Yah is revealing from heaven, his wrath. Okay, and unrighteousness of men who suppress, katecho, who suppress, to hold back, to detain, to restrain, to hinder, who suppress the truth, aletheia, okay, which is verity, in reality, in fact, in certainty, okay? So, for the wrath of Elohim is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness, okay, and unrighteousness of men, who suppress the truth in unrighteousness. So they have their methods, which are unrighteous methods. They have their way of doing it, and they're not ashamed of it. Paul says, I'm not ashamed of the gospel. Those who are ashamed of it are going to have hell to pay, right? What does Yah say? Messiah says, if you're ashamed of me or embarrassed about me in front of your buddies and your friends or whatever, well, then I'm going to be ashamed of you before my Father. You see, it's the same standard. It cuts both ways. The way that Messiah conducted himself, the way that he forgave his enemies, forgive them for they know not what they do. That's the way we need to answer these questions in these situations. We need to behave at no less standard than that he presents to us. And he goes on to say, because what may be known of Elohim is manifest in them, for Elohim has shown it to them. Okay? Because what may be known of Elohim is manifest in them, for Elohim has shown it to them. So, this idea of because here Paul is talking about certain conditions in mankind that exist within the body. He's not talking about Caesar here. He's not talking about, some of these, what do you call those guys fighting in the what do you call them? The warriors and, do you remember what you call them, Regina?
Oh, I think.
Okay. Russell Crowe played one in the theater, fighting with swords and whatever. He's talking to believers. The Bible was not written for the people on the outside. It's written for us on the inside. What the people on the outside can look and see, wow, what wonderful order, what truth. How can I get in? What do I have to do to get in and be part of this? What may be known, and this is verse 19, also 21, and also 28. He talks about, you know this stuff. You know it. This isn't the first time you're hearing about it. You know this stuff. What may be known of Elohim is manifest in them, for Elohim has shown it to them. He's given us his evidence, Is hine.
No, I'm just saying gladiator.
Gladiator, right. So because what may be known of Elohim is manifest in them, for Elohim has shown it to them. It's manifest. To manifest is to give credence to, is to give an embodiment of. Manifest. What may be known of Elohim is manifest in them. The ability to know is already in you. There's a Ruach in man, which is not the Ruach HaKodesh. The Ruach is given to mankind. It's what helps us to combine with our brain to give us a mind, an expanding mind of intellect and of all these things to put on the mind of Messiah through the Ruach of holiness. But how to know Elohim? It's innate in mankind to look up at the sky, to look to the mountains, to look at the huge oceans, and just be blown away in awe of the magnitude of the epic scale of all that is. Makes us look for something. That's why what we call pagan cultures are not pagan as we know pagan now, those who are atheist. There was very little atheism back in the day. Everyone had a deity, everyone had a statue, everyone had a something that they put their trust in, because everyone had the innate knowledge that there's something. I know there's something in the skies. Look at the sky. Look at the way those stars are separated. They look like different things. And if I look at those stars long enough, I'll start to see that the stars are directing my life. What star sign was I born under? What is teaching me from the heavens that I'm just not getting yet? So there's something in mankind that reaches for the stars. And the third heaven is beyond the starry universe, which is fully expansive. And yet the third heaven, the throne of Yah, is way above that. And it's no less in scope and size than the universe. That is the Shemayim. When Shlomo, Melech Yisrael, Solomon, dedicated the temple, he gave in a speech that says, the heavens can, I built this little house, I built this little Beit HaMikdash, this little holy house, this little set-apart house, so that we can come together and have Kohanim do this and do that, and offer sacrifices for us to grow closer to Yah, to qualify to be in His presence. It says the heavens can't contain Yah. So the heaven of heavens, universe, in scope and in scale, are dwarfed by His reality. The heavens cannot contain Him. Heavens cannot contain Him. He exists beyond time and space, and He boggles the mind, which is why we feel like we have to figure this out, guys and gals. We got to figure this out. Who is the director beyond this angelic choir? Who is in charge here? Obviously, I'm a drop in the bucket, but Yah is that He has made known that He has shown it to them. Verse 20. For since the creation of the world, His invisible attributes, and again, unseen, aoratos, okay, which is unseen, or that which cannot be seen, okay? And again, we use the term invisible because we can't see it. Doesn't mean it's not there. The realm of the Ruach, with the Malakim waging war against the fallen ones, is going on all around us. The Malakim. We just can't see it. Okay? For since the creation of the world, we just read where the world was framed by the word of Yah. The world was framed by the word. And if the earth is the unique planet of all in all the cosmos in which mankind exists and cries out to his creator, because ultimately all things will be given to us as we inherit it once the new heavens and the new earth arrive. Okay, Colossians 1:15 says, he is the image of the invisible Elohim. He is the image of the invisible. An image and invisible. It's a contradiction. How could you be the image of that which can't be seen? But we're talking about things that pertain to the Ruach. That's why you can't read the Bible without having the sod understanding of the scripture. Otherwise, we're just reading any book of philosophy or anything. But the scriptures open up our minds and are standing there knocking. Some things we can't give a full understanding of because he is the image of the invisible Elohim. Okay? The firstborn, the Bekor, the Prototokos in the Greek, over all creation. For by him all things were created that are in the heavens and that are on the earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or dominions or principalities and powers. All things were created through him and for him. So by him, through him, and for him are all things that have been created. So the one who is the image of that which is invisible, the image of that which is unseen, is the creator of all things. By him, through him, for him. And this could give you a headache trying to wrap your head around this type of thing. But Yah has given us. He's put the heavens in our minds. He's allowed us to consider these things, these weighty matters. Yeah, also the trivial stuff, which is like candy, which is stuff that we would rather have than the beautiful meal as immature children. But we got to grow up. We have to become mature, and our taste buds have to become more mature, which is why we would love to have a 7-course meal rather than a box of M&Ms or fill in the blank, fill in your own candy. Okay. All things are created by him, through him, for him. It's just so profound. It's so beautiful. I'm so grateful that I get a chance to read these words and to get a chance to share my very limited insight on this, over 30 plus years, 35, how many? I don't know exactly. But I'm still learning. I still want to be a student of the word. I still want to learn. I want to be teachable. I don't want to paint myself into a corner. I want to be open to the truth, wherever it leads me. Because we're told to prove all things, to test all things. Hold on to that which is proven true, and reject that which is disproven. Just like Jacob succeeded, was accepted, Esau failed and was rejected. Liked and disliked, loved and hated. We think of extremes. And Yah wants us to come to a full understanding of who he is. He really does. We must diligently seek him. Oh, Wanda. Oh, man. That's okay. Wanda, shalom, shalom. And once this is over, you can always check out, because it's here. And we encourage all those who would be watching this to know that everything's recorded, and avail yourself to the subject matter that's listed there. We've covered a lot of things on our Sabbath services as well as on our midweek Midrash service. So again, we are reading in Romans, first chapter, verse 20. And we're going to get into this more fully next week because we're running out of time. For since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes have been seen. That's so that they are without excuse. Ano ologditos. Okay? Without excuse. Without defense, it's inexcusable for us not to know. And then goes on to say, verse 21, quickly, because although they know Elohim, they did not glorify him as Elohim, nor were thankful, and became futile in their thoughts. So again, this is written to those who know better and have decided to take things into their own hands. And mankind has a propensity to be eternal butterfingers. We tend to drop the things that we cannot firmly grasp. And Elohim, that's a prickly pear, that whole subject. Be careful. Enter with humility, bow before him, and advance slowly, because he is an awesome Elohim. And it's the fear of Yah that is the beginning of wisdom. Yeah, the fear is talking about respect and such, but it's also terrifying, because in our current state of mortality, we could not dwell with him in his unapproachable light, because the fire of his presence incinerates that which is unworthy, that which is unclean, that which is not fireproof. And at the same time, we are being refined by that fire to be more and more like him, to have more of the dross and the imperfections burned away. Because the Ruach is of fire. Just like in Acts, right? It was the tongues of fire appeared on their heads, right? And how Yah answers by fire. He answered David by fire. He answered Elijah by fire. So Yah responds to us with a cleansing flame. And that's something that we can't really fit into our normal way of thinking. That Yah is a good guy. He's wonderful. Yes, he's all of that. But also he is terror. He is terrifying power that the nations, the unbelieving Goyim are terrified of. They're absolutely terrified. But for us, we have a saving knowledge of reverence that we can walk with him. We can walk with him in the cool of the day. We can walk halakha. We walk and reflect his character as we walk in the ruach of the yom, the ruach, the spirit of the day. The word translated as cool of the day is an unusual thing in context, perhaps. Walked with him in the cool of the day. But that part has been restored. We can walk with Yah in the ruach of the day. Walk, allow us to learn of him, to follow his ways, and to be grateful. We need to be grateful. We need to be grateful. And some of us are in a situation where gratitude is not the thing that we think of. And we have to make sure that we're not embittered by the things of this world, because we were made for such a time as this. We were made to move forward. And I saw a little profile on Michael J. Fox, who's dealing with Parkinson, who's in the serious throes of this uncontrollable, incurable disease. He said, with gratitude, optimism is sustainable. With gratitude, optimism is sustainable. And I said, wow. And I've been grateful. And if you've been watching our videos from the beginning, you'll see that there's been a change in me. And I'm trusting Yah. Ultimately, I know that there's a healing. But right now, I'm receiving and accepting his truth up. And so anyway, we're gonna finish here, and I'm gonna take this up next week. That his invisible attributes are clearly seen, which is an amazing statement. So let's wrestle with that a little bit more next week. And we thank you for joining us. And we also want to let you know that we will be here on Shabbat morning, Yah willing, at 11 a.m. We have some interesting subjects to cover there. And we'll have Pat and Gilbert reading from the scriptures and having a good old time. So we'd love for you to join us there at 11 a.m. on Shabbat. And Patricia, are you there?
Hello?
Yeah, Pat.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, good. Because I know you said your phone was slowly sinking. So if you wouldn't mind closing in prayer for us.
Sure. Father, in the name of Yeshua, we thank you that we could come together and open up your word this Wednesday night here,
Yes.
this phone line. We honor you and praise you for who you are. We thank you for the many blessings you bestow upon us each day. Bless and protect each family here tonight. Father, great is your faithfulness
Yes.
on this heart. We thank you for your word that changes hearts and draws men to you.
Yes.
To Elohim be all glory, honor, and praise.
Yes.
In Yeshua's name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Patricia. So once again, we say shalom, shalom. We say laila tov, ulehitraot. We say good night. We will see you later, a little further down the road. So for now, be strong, be of good courage, and love Yah and love your neighbor as yourself. So we say shalom, shalom, and laila tov. Be well.